Darlene was one of the first family physicians who I sat down with after I started, and I immediately knew that she was going to be a great support for our advocacy work. My predecessor had really high praise to say about Darlene, but I admit in my couple decades of advocacy work, I'm always a little bit, well, we'll see. There's a lot of people out there that think they know a lot about advocacy and don't know as much as they think they do. In this case, however, Darlene has far exceeded my expectations. Darlene's amazing. Honestly, she probably should have gotten this award years ago. She's been a stalwart, not just in the academy, but also especially in our advocacy work. When her board term expired a few years back, I let her know that in no uncertain terms that I expected her to continue helping me with advocacy and there was not about to take no for an answer. She helps me, kind of wade through some of the confusing legislation where far too often the devil is in the details. I can think of a perfect example of why I rely so heavily on Darlene's expertise. A couple of years ago, there was a bill that on the surface it seemed pretty innocuous, had a few positives thrown in. If you just read it on the surface, you'd think, yeah, this is probably okay. We can just, we can support this. But buried way, way, way down, like line 493 was this paragraph of text that was really bad and would have had some really unintended consequences for both family physicians and patients. And Darlene's the one that found that. And we talked through it and she helped me work on some proposed changes, which we ended up taking to the sponsor. They amended the bill, they pulled the negative stuff out, and we ended up turning it into a positive bill. I mean, that's just one of many examples. From me texting her from the Capitol to her being a constant on our calls, she's my go-to for insight and really experienced perspective. I'm often mistaken for a doctor when I'm on the Hill, a notion that I am very quick to disabuse them of. But it's because Darlene makes me sound smart. She helps me sound convincing.
The legislature sticks its finger into healthcare matters all the time in 100 different ways, in many different ways. And it affects our patients. It affects our day-to-day work. But if we're not paying attention, if no one's even paying attention to go clarify back to the legislature what the consequences of those things are, then things just kind of go through because they seemed like a good idea for a couple of weeks or because one other particular interest group wanted it. If we're not there to speak up for ourselves, then really no one is, and to speak up on behalf of our patients for a system that works. The UAFP does a great job to be down there with their lobbyists, and so as an organization to make statements, but even those statements depend on individual docs giving their feedback to the UAFP so that we can have a position. The lobbyist always needs that, right? Because the lobbyist says, I'm speaking on behalf of these other people, but they're not those other people. And to be able to speak with the voice of authenticity because you had one or two or a few of your advocates, our group, the UAFP, who read it through and said, okay, this is not right. Here's the way we normally talk about this. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but it really is going to affect this and this. And then to use, like you say, speak doctor, to speak the language of healthcare and of patients and of the healthcare bureaucracy, which is what legislation is, makes Marianne more credible when she can sound like, and honestly does, know what she's talking about because she talked with Darlene before she came in.
I met Darlene, of course, in my role as executive director at the Utah Academy of Family Physicians, and Darlene got involved, with the running of the academy when she actually reached out in response to a call to all members asking people to get involved with the various committees that the academy was standing up. She volunteered for the Advocacy and Policy Committee, which of course was one that I was most passionate about. And one of the primary reasons that I came to the Academy was to help elevate the voice of family physicians at the Capitol. And Darlene was probably the first person that responded and the person that always came to every meeting, and not just attended meetings, but came informed and had done her research and had well thought out responses and opinions to various policy issues that we were dealing with. So I got to work with her first on the advocacy committee, and her passion for the mission of the Academy was so apparent early on. There was no way that I wasn't going to ask her to consider being involved in the board of directors as well. And so I think just the next year when we had nominations for the board of directors, I encouraged her to apply, and of course she was elected. Then stepped up and assumed the role as president-elect and president of the Academy, and working with her was always just delightful. Her passion and work ethic always shined through in everything that she did. And so she was, and I'm sure still is, really astute at recognizing the minutiae and the nuances of policy so that we could bring our voice to the Capitol and say, you probably don't intend for your bill to do this thing, but this is actually what it will do. And so let's work on ways to mitigate harm or maximize the good that we can do with statutory changes.
Thank you, Darlene. For all the times when Marianne made sense in the room because of the homework that you did the night before, reading the bills. That work doesn't get a thank you in the committee. No one knows. But what the UAFP stands for and hopes to get does better because of the work that you have done and hopefully will keep doing for us behind the scenes.
Congratulations, Darlene. So well deserved, probably long overdue, but thank you for all of your service to the Academy, to your patients, to your community, to our state's community. I know this is not the first award that Darlene has won. I'm sure it won't be the last, but this is one that I think really demonstrates the capacity and the good in the world that the Academy accomplishes because of its incredible membership and its leadership.
Darlene's influence on our advocacy work is incalculable, and I'm so pleased that she's getting this long overdue recognition. So Darlene, congratulations, you really are the best, and you can never, ever leave.